Yeah, so my name is Dean Jones. I work at the Office of the Director of Child Protection Litigation, which is within the Department of Justice and Attorney General framework here in Queensland. Following the Carmody inquiry in 2012, there were a lot of recommendations, 121 actually, that the government had to or was requested to implement. The Queensland government start that one again.
Okay.
So
We might say what the Carmody report was about. It was an investigation into.
yeah. Okay.
Explain
Following the Carmody inquiry in 2012, which was an inquiry around child abuse, neglect cases that ran through the Children's Court in Queensland, there were 121 recommendations that came out of that inquiry. And one of those recommendations was the statutory office of the Director of Child Protection Litigation, and that was so that there was an independent statutory director that could decide the type of child protection application to be filed in the Children's Court, which was separate to child safety officers or Crown Law, for example, that formerly used to litigate those matters. So having an independent litigator, similar to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions in regards to criminal matters, to use that analogy for the Director's office that I work in the child protection arena, we are able to litigate those matters on behalf of the Director independently from child safety based on their expert advice. My role within the Office of the Director of Child Protection Litigation is as the principal lawyer. I also get the opportunity to act as the Assistant Director. And what we do at the Office of the Director of Child Protection Litigation is that we get referred children that are being harmed or are at risk of harm. And when that occurs, referrals go to the Director's office, and then we have to decide on how that will be litigated through the Children's Court of Queensland. And often that is through an application to the court for short-term, long-term custody or guardianship, but it can also be as minor as a protective type supervision order or a directive from a Children's Court magistrate or judge in respect to how best to or what is in the best interest of a child when making a particular order. So in a particular day, I think it's quite varied, and I don't believe there is a typical day in the child protection arena. The typical day could be from working in Rockhampton, litigating a matter in the Children's Court, to being in the office in Brisbane, drafting applications to be filed somewhere in Queensland for a particular child protection type harm situation. I think in respect to the role, there are challenges and there are real enjoyment aspects of the role as well. I really enjoy reaching out to people, reaching out to the community, and I think that's one of the fundamental reasons why I started with the Director's office. I really wanted to be making more of a difference. Coming from a background of criminal law, I wanted to be able to make more of a change at the forefront of when children were being harmed. And I think that if I had to say one of the largest challenges in the area at the moment is sometimes you feel like, I wish I could do more. I wish I could reach out and sometimes wake up the community about what's happening and around the use of methamphetamine, around domestic violence, particularly against women and mothers, and how that impacts on our children. And we have to do more in Queensland, and I believe we are, but we can do better. In 2008, I graduated from Griffith University. I was fortunate enough to graduate with honours in law, and I also graduated with a politics and government degree as well. And I applied to be a judge's associate, And I was again fortunate enough in that time when there weren't a lot of jobs going because of the financial crisis to be able to work for a judge, and a judge that I really respected, Judge Robertson, who was back in my hometown on the Sunshine Coast. So not only did I get to work for a judge, I got to go home and see my family again after being away for a little while studying. And in that year and a half, which was an extended associateship, I really got a feel of what type of area I wanted to study. Judge Robertson was formerly president of the Children's Court. He also worked and did a lot of work in the Planning and Environment Court, but he also sat as a district court judge in the criminal jurisdiction. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the challenge that courtroom advocates bring, but I also enjoyed the people aspect of that as well. I enjoyed listening to others' submissions in court and how they were able to concisely explain complex areas of law. And so after working for Judge Robertson, I went to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, and I started as a clerk, a legal support officer, and I knew if I ever wanted to be a Crown prosecutor that I would have to go regionally. And what I mean by that is get out of Brisbane. That's some advice. You can wait a long time in Brisbane if you're not motivated. And so I worked at Maroochydore, I worked at Townsville, and I spent 2 years in Rockhampton as a Crown prosecutor at a time when there was a lot of work going on. So in 2015, I prosecuted the largest number of criminal trials in the district court at Rockhampton. And the work is varied. It ranges from fraud, complex fraud over $30,000, to serious sexual assaults and rapes against usually women. And it's a tough job. There's no doubt about that. But it's very rewarding as well to see the right outcomes for the right people and for people to see that justice is not only done but seen to be done. And after my time at the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, I discovered that they were setting up this new office called the Office of the Director of Child Protection Litigation, a first in Australia. Really based on the UK and Canadian models of independent litigation of child protection matters. And I put my hand up, and I was lucky enough and fortunate enough to get the role of principal lawyer within the team, and that's where I've remained for the last 2 years. So when I was at university at Griffith, there were a lot of challenges for me personally, coming out as a gay man, but also there were challenges around financial reasons, how I could attend university. I was fortunate enough to be awarded the George Alexander Foundation scholarship from Griffith University, and from that scholarship I really believe that I discovered what community service was all about. Giving back something and not just taking from others. And I think that's what Griffith really made me discover, that there is a lot of reward in giving back to the community. In terms of why I chose law, I think that I chose the law because of my own family background. I grew up in a fragmented family home. I did not have a silver spoon in my mouth, and that's for sure. And I was very fortunate enough to go to a dinner with hundreds of others where Bill Clinton was giving a speech, and he spoke about community service, about the law, and I thought this is something I want to aspire to. Not the person Bill Clinton, but that service, that ability to give and to reach out to others. And I thought the law was the area that I could do that in. So in 2016, I returned from living a number of years regionally, and when returning to Brisbane, I discovered that quite a few of my friends, not one, but 3 of them, were not out in the legal profession, meaning that while their friends may have known, their particular law firms didn't. And to me that felt not sad, but just unfortunate that they didn't feel comfortable enough to bring their whole selves to work. So in 2017, I was sitting in a room with some friends, networking as I love to do, and I told them about this idea of creating an organisation where people could feel 100% themselves, to network and to build allies within the LGBTI community. And so in July 2017, I launched Pride in Law online, and so we held an event at the Benko Court, which is a ceremonial court in Brisbane, where we approached Milton Griffin QC, who was formerly Judge Milton Griffin SC in the District Court, and we asked the Chief Justice if we could use the ceremonial court to have the launch, which became a sold-out event. We had over 200 people attend, including the Attorney General, Chief Justice, Chief Magistrate, and many of the judiciary. And it was a real eye-opening moment for the legal profession. Look, I think some of the main skills that I discovered that I really crafted at university and still rely on today, almost 10 years later, is around research and about formulating an answer to a question. Whether you frame the question and then apply the law and then interpret the law and then reach a conclusion, I think Griffith taught me that to a really high standard, and I use that today even in court, where I repeat a question back, I apply the law and reach the conclusion based on the law. Griffith taught me that. Griffith also taught me how to network. There's nothing more important, I believe, in the legal profession, apart from reaching your educational milestones, than networking with your peers while you do that. You can learn a lot from others, and I encourage everyone to do that while they're at university. Look, if I was back at university and it was my first year, I think what I didn't know is how hard working in the legal profession will be. You have to be goal-driven, you have to be motivated, and one piece of advice I would give university students is embrace change, because without change, I'll start that one again. I'll start that whole question again if that's okay. At university, if I was back at university in my first year, I think I would tell my younger self that it's going to be hard work and you have to be motivated. But more importantly, don't be afraid of change. Embrace change and you will go far. My top advice for any student, whether they're in their first year or final year of university study, it's not too late or not too early to start. If you want to be a criminal lawyer, then go work at a criminal law firm as a clerk. If you want to go work as a government lawyer, go work as an administration officer. If you want to work as a family practitioner, go to your boutique firm knock on the door and say, I'm looking for a job, because the sooner you get out there, the better results you'll get.